Is it not coming? Sorry, we're just waiting.
Hello.
Oh. Instagram.
I was thinking, it was really strange because I was on one last night with a radio station. I was thinking, I don't know how to update it. I went to my apps and it seemed to be, you know.
Do you know what? I was sitting there, I was like, no, please don't do this. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Instagram, for eventually allowing us to go live. You okay? How
Yeah.
are you?
A really lazy morning, actually.
Did you?
Yeah, it's nice. It's a beautiful day, isn't it?
Beautiful out there. Very beautiful. Let me just put this light on. Yeah, there we go. Yes. So, I've got people joining. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. Thank you. Thank you. Fantastic. So we're just going to...
KJ, that's my daughter that's just joined that says hiya. Hiya.
Oh, hello. Thanks for joining. Fantastic. So we're going to have a great time today with your mama. Fantastic. So, yes, so I'm just going to give you an introduction. Drum roll. We are so honored to have the one and only Julie Kent MBE joining us at Global Sororitas. I'm so excited to have Julie on here. I first listened to her briefly about her story on Clubhouse. I think that was the first time I heard about your story with when we were on with Juliet. And so I was captivated by your story. So I started following you and then we just connected from there. So I'm so glad to have you here on Global Sororitas. So just to let everybody know a little bit about Global Sororitas. So this is my intention of having this platform is to celebrate motherhood, to help mothers find their voice and create an online platform for mothers to tell their story, particularly the journey of motherhood. And this is part of my charity, which is Balm in Gilead Charity. And so I have brought Julie on here because I wanted her to share her story with us. You know, she has had an incredible journey. I would say colorful journey, you know, and I just want her to be able to share her life experience with us, the story of grief, grit, resilience, and glamour, and also giving. You know, Julie was honored with an MBA in October 2020 by Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II for her charitable service. So, and she is named as one of the 50 greatest women in Gloucestershire, top 100 women in the West, and recently gained the most outstanding woman in the charitable sector in the West. She is retired from being a house mistress at Dean Close for over 20 years, specialising in teenagers coping with life, and a teacher at Dean Close for 30 years. Often referred to as the lady with the sax, Julie is an inspirational, musical, and high energy keynote speaker who enters the stage playing the saxophone and takes the audience on an adventure through 3 challenging decades. It is an honor to have you here today. So we just wanted to start with you just telling us about your journey.
How long have you got, Kate? I mean, I suppose the journey, you mean the journey of being a mother, don't you?
Yes.
And
yes.
We were married. My husband and I got married in 1990, and in 1992 we had our first daughter, Emily. And when she was about 2.5, we noticed that she was falling over a bit, just stumbling a bit. And the childminder noticed that too. And so we took her, I thought maybe she wasn't seeing properly. So I took her to an optician and he said there was something not quite right. And we took her to an eye specialist. And he also said, you know, we needed to have a scan. And they didn't really, none of them said anything if they did have any concerns, because the day that we went for the scan, even the pediatric doctor said that, oh, you know, if the scan is fine, then maybe we'll look at her gait and the way she walks. So we were not prepared in any way for anything to be seriously wrong. And she had the scan, and within half an hour, we were in an ambulance and on our way to a hospital in Bristol, which is about 40 miles away. So and then they said that she had a tumor in the back of her brain, and of course at 2.5 you can't really describe how you're feeling, can you? You know,
No.
at 2.5 you're either happy and glad and skipping around, or she was sick occasionally, and if she was sick she was fine afterwards, which again would have been a sign. And we had 6 months of treatment of chemotherapy, but the prognosis was never good. And she died in the June, and we started a charity in her name. And I've said it a lot recently, you know, if you have a child, if you lose a child, and especially if you haven't got other children, you have such an emptiness that starting a charity and keeping the name going, it fills that gap really. And makes you feel that you're doing something positive, because it's such a horrendous negative thing to happen. So and once we got on that treadmill, you know, we raised money for 6 or 7 years, about 400,000, and bought equipment for children that had cancer and were maybe going back to school and needed a laptop or a big buggy, or and both the Bristol Children's Hospital and the hospital in Gloucestershire were both building new children's units, and both approached us. So we gave 50,000 to Bristol, and there was a ward there with her name on. And in Gloucestershire, where we live, the paediatric oncology is called the Emily Kent unit. So I still now visit it today with my charity hat on, which is good. But we felt, then we had Ollie, our son, and then we had Georgia, who's on here now. And we felt that really, you know, we were still organising big events, still having massive, beautiful pictures of Emily on the wall to try and get people to give more money in the auction or whatever. But we needed to, I was finding it hard to let it go really, and needed to focus on the 2 children we had. So we decided to fold the charity, and felt that we had done enough. And some people said, oh, was that really difficult? Because I know people that have carried on charities in their children's name when really they, you know, they've lost the sort of energy for raising money, but they're scared that if they close the charity, the name is gone, and that is something that they find hard. But we didn't really feel like that. We felt that was the time, and we had done, you know, enough. And I suppose because we had the wards in her name is still there really.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
So did you feel, I mean, that must have been an experience that is undescribable. I can't even describe it, because I can relate to a certain extent to what you were going through. But did you feel like you had enough time to grieve, or did you feel like you actually went through the grieving process, or you just totally kind of put it to one side?
I put it to one side. I think in those days, though, we're talking about 28 years ago, we weren't offered any counselling, or in those days you didn't really. We probably had, I'm just trying to remember, maybe the health visitor might have come round and said, oh, you know, are you okay, and do you want to talk about it? But they weren't really qualified counsellors, or people that specialised in people that had lost children really. And so I think I got on the whole charity bandwagon thing, and just thought that doing all that was feeding my grief. But I think when we closed the charity, that was part of me saying, I haven't really dealt with this, and I can't deal with it while we're still putting all these massive pictures of her everywhere. And that, so I knew that, but I still didn't really deal with it then. The only time I dealt with it was when my father died about six years ago, and I'm the eldest of 3 daughters, and I was very close to my dad, as my 2 sisters were as well. But I was with him on the last night. It was my shift, so I was with him all night, the night that he died. And I did, for the first time ever, went into a dark place. And I consider myself to be a very upbeat person, very positive. And I really did. It was like the whole losing Dad brought back the whole losing of Emily. Like, it hit me like a double-decker bus, really. And I had a summer where I was really not good and didn't really want to get out of bed, didn't want to see people, which for me was not, you know, not me at all. And it probably took me a whole summer. And a very good friend, I've got an Irish friend that lives in London. She was absolutely brilliant with me. And yeah, and then it did, but that was a long way on. And now, you know, I can actually go on the Emily Kent unit now, because when it first opened 20 years ago, I think I was on there for about 30 seconds when they opened, and just seeing all these young children having lost their hair, I was out of the ward really quickly. Whereas now I can do that, you know, we're 28 years on and I can do that. And I feel proud when I go on there, which is good.
Yeah, that is incredible. That is incredible. I'm just thinking, 28 years, you said. I'm just thinking, I think the health sector has come a long way in terms of supporting women, but I still feel there's a lot more to be done in terms of the aftercare for women that have gone through pregnancy loss. So that's one of the things that I wanted to focus on, in how can we improve that a lot better. Yes, it's good to have the counseling and things like that, but sometimes women sometimes I felt like I just needed someone to just sit with me in that space of silent, not really having to talk about it. Just trying to create something like that for women to be able to experience that. So I really honor, you know, the things that you have done, you know, and a legacy lives on, you know, a legacy lives on. And so I wanted to talk about your profession as an educator, because I know you taught at Dean's Close School in Cheltenham for 30 years. Wow. Wow. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about that? What motivated you to go into teaching?
Well, when I met my husband, I was actually a musician 6 nights a week. So I played every night. And a great lifestyle in many ways, but not the sort of lifestyle if you've got children, really. So I started to teach because I thought, well, I'll just do a few days a week. And I used to go to a different school every day. And then I went to Dean Close, and I didn't really like it when I first went, because it was quite, oh gosh, it was, all the men had tweed jackets on, you know, with the leather circles on their elbows. It was really very proper. And I really was not proper at all. And so, and I didn't really want to teach it. I was teaching 4 days, and I didn't teach Fridays because I was still gigging, still playing 6 nights a week. And Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays were usually late ones. But I was teaching a pupil at home who had a scholarship at Dean Close, and he was still taught by me here, though. So part of his scholarship would be that he'd have his free lessons at school. But the saxophone teacher at the school was an oldish guy, and he didn't want to have lessons with him. So he retired, and the school contacted me and said, would I apply for the job? And I said, no, you know, I don't want to teach. I only got 1 free day, and I don't want to teach that day. And then they contacted me and said, you know, well, you could just teach Nicholas then, because, you know. Anyway, so I applied, and I remember, actually at that time I was a smoker as well, and I think I'd even sat in the car. I had a bright red suit on, I remember, and I'd had a cigarette in the car. And a few years on, because I did get the job, obviously, and a few years on, the headmaster said to me, because I had 2 headmasters in an interview just to be a saxophone teacher, and the headmaster said, oh, we remember you arriving. You opened your saxophone case, and alcohol and cigarette fumes just came out of your saxophone case. And they brought Nicholas in for me to teach in front of them, which was quite funny. And my very first day, I remember going into the refectory where the whole school went for lunch. and there were staff tables, and I sat down, and this old guy who was the bursar, and he said, "Oh, who are you?" And I said, "Oh, I teach the saxophone. It's my first day here teaching the saxophone." And he said, "Oh, that's not an orchestral instrument, is it?" And I went home and I said, "I'm leaving. I'm doing one term. That place is not for me. I don't want to be there." And then 30 years on, yeah, we left. But 10 years from that, we moved into the school and lived in the school for 20 years. So I think they got used to me more than I got used to them, really.
So is that how you obviously became the head house mistress?
Yeah. So
how was that like?
Oh, it was amazing. I absolutely loved it. So I taught for about 6 years, and then I started to teach flute and clarinet there as well. And the day house, so the girls, there were 90 girls, and they used to go home every night. That house came available, and I wrote to the headmaster and said, "I'd really like to do that." And he asked all these other teachers, and they didn't want to do it. So I was the day house mistress first, and then the boarding house came up. And that was much easier because we lived right in the middle of the school, and Georgia was only 1 and Ollie was 4 when we moved into the house, and it was just so much easier. You know, I could pop back, and actually we had a Spanish au pair, 2 Spanish au pairs for 2 years in a row when Georgia was probably 4 and by then Ollie was 7, but just to help get them ready in the morning, because I'd have to get to school and roll call and do a register for 70 girls, 90 in the day house, in the boarding house 60, but you know, just to get them ready, and then I had to do a roll call before they had to be at school. So we did have a couple of au pairs for a couple of years, which was really helpful. But to live with all those teenage girls was just such an honor, because you know, there were tricky times, but there was a lot of fun as well. It was really good fun. But you know, not so good when they fell out, really. If they fell out with each other, that wasn't so good.
So good, but, yeah.
And with 60 girls, you have a lot of falling out, really. and I think the worst was when their mums would get involved. So you know, their mums, wherever they lived, they could live in Dubai or London, and you know, if their daughters ring up and they're upset, the mums like to tell me what is going on and what is happening from their point of view. So I could have 2 mums that are telling me what they think is going on, 2 girls, a member of staff that is trying to sort it out. You know, that sort of thing would be a challenge. But again, you know, we would laugh about it. A week later, we would all laugh about it. You know, the girls would laugh about it, and the mums would arrive maybe at the weekend to take them out, and they would laugh about it. But at the time, you know, it's the biggest thing ever. But an honor, you know, they used to, the parents would drop them off at 13, and we'd do the welcome day and everything. And I would say to the parents, you know, you're handing me a young girl, and in 5 years' time, I'm going to hand you back a young woman who is 18, who is off to university. And for some of those girls, some of them lived in Nigeria, Kenya, Spain, China, Hong Kong. They spent more time with me in those 5 years than they did their own mums. It was a big responsibility, you know. I was the woman, the oldest woman that they were kind of looking up to and living with every day, and coped with, you know, their first period and their first kiss and their first failure in an exam, and you know, all those things times 60. So never a dull moment.
I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, and I wanted to ask you this question. I want your perspective on it in terms of purpose. Do you think that transition into teaching and then being a house mistress was that long? You were fulfilled in terms of you knew what your purpose was?
I don't think I knew what it was. I don't think I was aware of it. But I do, when I look at it now, and I suppose it's 6 months I've been away from it, I think I have a need to be needed. And that really fed that. Living with 60 teenage girls really fed that. you know, that need that I had to be needed by people. Now, whether that need came from losing Emily, I don't know, but I am noticing now that I miss it. And when I talk about it, it makes me realize that I loved in the morning that they needed me. They needed to ask me where their trainers were, and they needed my advice on something. And that was something that I enjoyed giving, and that fed my, would it be ego even? I don't know, but it was definitely something that I relished and I really enjoyed, and that actually I realise I do miss now, although I've had 2 of them call me this week, even though I'm not there, 2 that are leaving this year, so I would have seen them through if I'd have stayed, and they've called me about trying to find them placements for work experience, but both of them actually want to be journalists, so because I know a lot of people, so and I would do that with not just my girls but all the sixth form pupils. I was involved in careers and trying to find them slots, you know, if they wanted to be an accountant. You would probably know an accountant, so I would get them linked up, and you know, again, but deep down it's that need to be needed, isn't it? But I'd also like to think that I am a giver, and you've heard me speak about how important I think giving is, and giving to 60 teenage girls every day is giving with a capital G, really. And giving is something that I think comes naturally to me, and I don't question it. And sometimes my husband, if someone rings and then I end up on the phone, and he'll say, "Your dinner is now cold. You could have said you'll call back." And I say, "I know, but I just, you know, it's a natural instinct in me that I just want to give all the time." I need to give more to him, probably.
So that leads me into your charitable service and the various charity the youth kind of supported in fundraising over the years. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your charitable work?
Yeah, well, once we closed the Emily Kent Trust, I got involved with organising breast cancer dinners at school, actually pink dinners for breast cancer, because everyone knows someone. And we've got a link school in Uganda, so helped with that. And then the Pied Piper appeal, which was the charity that built the new children's hospital that we gave 50,000 to, they approached me and said, would I become a trustee? And even though I said I was too busy and didn't have time, they asked me to just attend 3 meetings a year, which it didn't quite end up like that. So I now I do all the social media, and I help run the shop. I got them to open a shop, and I'm actually in the office now because our fundraiser left, so I'm a volunteer fundraiser in the office and helping in the office, and organise lots of events and the strategy and moving forward. During that time, about 2 years ago, a charity in Cheltenham called Cheltenham Open Door, who feed the homeless and people that are vulnerable, people that are lonely. They were looking for a chairman, and they asked me to be the chairman, and so I took that on about 18 months ago, and we now need bigger premises, so that's going to be quite a challenge. We've got to find new building, we're probably going to need new staff, you know, that's going to be quite a big job, really. And Goals Beyond Grass, which is disabled children that play football in wheelchairs, they haven't been able to do that for a long time now, and you know, that's really difficult because their mental health is struggling, because they're shielding with their carers or parents, they can't really go out, and that's really difficult. They had a talent thing last night on YouTube, which was good. And actually, coming back to Pied Piper, just to say what we do, we buy equipment for the hospital, we buy equipment for the SEND schools around here, we've got 12. We send children and their families on wish holidays. So if they've been in hospital for a long time, leukemia in children, the protocols last about 2 years. And if you've got brothers and sisters as well, they're in and out of hospital all the time. And so we do send them on a holiday just to get their families back into some sort of normal unit. And we help children with mental health issues. So that's what they do. I just suddenly thought I didn't actually say what the Pied Piper did, but so all of that, now that I'm retired,
Yeah.
does keep me very busy.
Yeah.
But
That's fantastic. Somebody says, great job, well done. Yes, what an inspiration. What an inspiration. If there's is there any way, I mean, people will listen to this afterwards.
yeah.
If there's any way they can support, what would you say is the best way to support those charities that you're working with?
Well, all of them will take donations, and all of them have got websites, really. You know, because Cheltenham Open Door collects food, so that would be quite difficult if people weren't close to us, but we will always take donations. Pied Piper are £130,000 down on last year, because we're very events based. So we have a big ball that raises over 20,000. We have a 2-day summer show that raises 40,000. We have big events that we love people coming to, and it raises lots of money. But of course, we haven't been able to do any of that. But it has made me look at how we can get money in now without events. You know, we're starting a 100 club, so we're trying to get 100 people to pay £10 a month.
Okay.
And then we'll have a draw every month. Someone could win 150 and someone could win 100, and then at least we are getting 750 a month, that because we have a nurses bursary fund,
Right.
and all the latest pediatric courses on asthma or epilepsy or diabetes, the nurses can apply to our bursary, and they can go on the latest course for nursing children with those illnesses, so that the children in our county get the very best, latest care from the nurses as possible. And we feel really strongly about that, because otherwise it's the bigger hospitals in Bristol or Birmingham that children would be moved to. And it's an upheaval. We know, because we had to go to Bristol and we didn't even have other children. But it's an upheaval if you have to take your child somewhere else to have treatment. We want to get our children here to have the best possible treatment they can, really.
Fantastic. I'm going to, when I download this live, I'm going to put all the details in there. So if anyone wants to connect and donate and be part of the 100 Club, which I think is a great idea, £10 a month, you know, just to contribute to that would be fantastic. Yes. So I wanted to talk about your podcast.
Oh, yeah. Well, I thought it was going to be easier than it is, Katie, actually. I've got 2 recordings in the bag, but when you actually look at the platforms that put it out there for you, that is really quite complicated. And my husband has done all the editing. He's an absolute star, and he's done all the music. You know, the trailer is out now, actually. But I am really excited about it, and it's called What's in the Goodie Bag. And I'm interviewing people that are successful. They could be successful sports people or business people, but I want to know what they have done and what they have given back to society. So if I know someone who's a very successful businessman and he hasn't given anything to anyone else, then I'm not interviewing him. And then during the podcast, I'm going to ask them to donate something to go in my goodie bag, and then I will raffle or auction that for the Pied Piper Appeal. So it's a sort of podcast that's got a bit of a different flavour to it.
Yeah.
But it's quite difficult, especially when you're recording like this. We know, because we had to try and get on this morning. But if someone is recording in their kitchen and the sound isn't that good, you know, it's really difficult, isn't it? And with a podcast, you know, you want it to sound as good as possible. I'm a bit worried no one will listen to it.
Oh, no.
No, it'll be fine.
Definitely they would listen to it.
So so far, my first one is going to be quite a famous artist. I've already got that one, and he's put his book in the goodie bag. And the second man, his company makes mobile app games, and he was really good. And this week, I'm about to interview a guy that ran the Red Arrows. You know, the Red Arrows aeroplane display.
Oh yes.
And I'm going to do a young girl who's a milliner. She makes hats, and people wear her hats to Cheltenham races and Ascot and that sort of thing. So yeah, I've got people sort of lined up, but we were going to launch it Tuesday, but Apple I said to Ben, right, so Tuesday, we'll launch it on Tuesday. And he said, Apple said that it can take up to 2 weeks for them to verify it and put it on. And so, but I'm, you know, once it gets going, I'm hoping that, you know, people will suggest people that I can talk to, and hopefully people will listen to it. People do listen to podcasts now.
Yeah, they do. And I love the idea of getting them to donate something. I think that is, I've not heard that one done before.
No.
So I think that's going to be a very interesting one. And I think you get a lot of people interested in that, because people want to see that they're actually doing something, you know, and it helps their brand, you know,
their profile.
So
and it's hard to get auction prizes, you know, it's really hard to get them. So hopefully, in fact, the guy's obviously going to sign his book. In fact, I shouldn't be saying, because then that takes the surprise away. I'm terrible, Katie. Do
you know when you launch, let me know so I can kind of put it on the different platforms so people know, and
that'd be great. Yeah.
I've had a couple of people speak to me about, you know, if you do consultancy work, for instance, if you give advice, if they have a charity and they just need some kind of guidance, if you do that.
I do a power hour with Julie Kent. It's £100 for an hour, and it's all on my website, actually. I mean, I've only just started it because if I hadn't have devised this, I wouldn't be off the phone all day, because people call me all the time. And if it's people in Gloucestershire, then I'm quite happy to, you know, chat to people and go for coffee. But outside of this county, someone said to me, you really have got to charge people, otherwise it will be non-stop. So it's called a power hour. It's on my website. And someone contacted me yesterday, actually, in America. So, you know, it's all on there. And I would find out, first of all, what sort of guidance they want, and do as much, you know, behind the scenes, and then have a really good hour with them, and hopefully give them lots of ideas.
Yeah. So to anyone listening, it's the Power Hour. I will put Julie's website in the comment section later on, so you can contact her. It is £100.
It is.
It has a wealth of knowledge. I'm telling you, £100 is not enough for the connection that she has as well, you know, to be able to help you in whatever you need to be helped with. And lastly, I wanted to ask you a question. And what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want to be remembered for?
I want to be remembered for being a giver, and, you know, I hope that Emily's ward will be there for a long time, because, you know, that's a legacy in itself. Just before I'd left school, I had just launched the Julie Kent Foundation Award, which was to put a child through Dean Close for 5 years. But all the events that we'd planned, to have the big reunions and all the people come back and then they would contribute, none of that has happened yet. But hopefully, some parents have already signed up to pay £30 a month for 30 months. And we did have an auction, but hopefully when all this finishes, we will be able to do some events at school and put a child through for 5 years. Dean Close, and have an education that they wouldn't normally be able to afford it. So that's another legacy. But I suppose having the MBE in a way has given me a bit of a legacy as well. And I've kept all the cuttings and everything for my granddaughter, because I have a granddaughter who's 15 months, Marley, and so we've kept all that so that when she's older, you know, they can say, and this, I'm not called a granny, Katie. I just did not want to be called granny, so I'm called Nonna. And I keep saying to her, every time I FaceTimed her this morning, and I was saying, where's Nonna? Non, to get her to say it. And, you know, I hope that my daughter and everyone will talk to her about her Nonna and what she did. And hopefully, my daughter is definitely very similar to me. She would, she has a beauty salon, and every time we have an event, she says, I'll give a free manicure, I'll give a free this. You know, Georgia is very like me, and I hope that Marley, again, will be the same, and we'll think of others all the time, really.
Yes, your MBE. I must not forget that. Thank you for bringing it up. Now, let's talk about how that went down.
Well, I nearly deleted the email. Have you heard that story?
I think,
Yeah,
briefly, yeah, go on.
I nearly deleted it. It came in with a whole load of capital letters, and I thought, oh golly, this must be spam. And opened it, and you know, it said, I think it's from Boris or someone in the cabinet office that says, you know, on behalf of the Queen, would you accept this award as member of the British Empire? And yeah, just couldn't believe it. It was in lockdown in June, and then we weren't allowed to say anything until October. But it gave me lots of time to think about what I was going to do with it, and which is why the idea of the virtual world tour, really. And I was on New York radio this week, yesterday, something like Women Rock Success or something. Sounds very, trying to make giving much more sexy, I think. And it's just made me realize that I want to get out and spread the word of how good giving is. It's really good for the person that's giving, and you'll know this from your charity, how good you must feel when you raise some money. You know it's going to a good cause. Yeah. And the people you're giving it to, I mean, it could be simple, like carrying an old lady's shopping off the bus, you know. Yeah. She's so relieved that you've helped her. You feel better when you walk away that you've helped an old lady. It's just a win-win situation. And yes, when I go out and do my talks everywhere, I'm going to challenge the audience, you know, to do something for their local charity. And I want them to tag me in and come back to me so that I know that my talk has actually made other people give. Yes. You know, I don't want to just turn up, do a talk and come home. I want the people in the audience to think, oh, right, let's organise a coffee morning. And I want them to tag me in so I feel like me going there was also generating a sort of ripple effect of other people giving. That will be my legacy, really. Hopefully.
Yes. So do you think that people treat you differently now that you have an MBE?
Well, we haven't really seen anyone. Some people, yeah. So I was on a networking thing this week, and I'd forgotten to put it on my, you know, when you're on a Zoom call and you put your name, and the guy running he said, Julie, where's your MBE gone? I went, oh, I haven't forgotten to put it on. Not really, except I suppose I'm hoping it will give me the platform, you know, to do bigger talks, to go to bigger places, and I suppose people think, well, she must know something if she's got an MBE, which I'm just putting a talk together at the moment, actually, for another business networking event, and they've said, will you talk about, you know, running a charity in a pandemic? So I'm just preparing that this morning. So it's opened up different things, and I need to be busy because I'm really, you know, I just love being busy. But I don't think anyone, certainly my family, haven't treated me any differently. And if anything, with my friends, it's just a bit of a joke. You know, they say, I saw someone the other day, he was walking down the road, and I stopped and I said, how are you? Because he hadn't been well. He said, oh, do I have to curtsy now? I said, no, I've got to practice my curtsy for when I meet the Queen.
Oh wow! Would that be the first time you've met the Queen, or have you met the Queen before?
Well, we didn't meet her, but my husband and I did go to her garden party a couple of years ago, and that was because of our charity connection. We'd had an invite to go to her garden party, and we were really close to her. But certain people had already been picked out that she would speak to, and they had to be in a certain place. But we were right at the front, and she just looks such a lovely lady. I mean, she's a giver. She's a giver with a capital G, isn't she? She gives all the time, and, which is fantastic as our role model. Yes. But the gardens and Buckingham Palace were fantastic, and you could go in as well. You could go into a bit of it. But I think the investiture is at St James's Palace, which is, well, I know St James's Palace because the London Marathon finishes there. And I did the London Marathon in 2012 when I was 50. And I remember we finished there, and all my school girls, they'd all come on a coach to watch me do it. And so they were all there at the end. And that was in the forecourt, I think, of St James's Palace. So whenever that happens, then that'll be exciting. Yes. I was going to say a new dress, but I've stopped buying clothes since the pandemic. I think I've bought 2 things, and they were from a company called Nobody's Child, which is all eco-sustainability, So I've already decided that when we get the date, I'm going to go to a really posh secondhand dress agency, and I want to wear a vintage or something, you know, like that, for my investiture, because that's sustainability.
Yes. I can't wait to see the pictures.
That's people keep saying that. They
I
keep,
can't
what are you going
wait.
to wear? Oh, and I don't know.
I can't wait to see it. It's going
Well,
to be glorious,
hope,
you know.
yeah. Big hat, big hat.
Do you know what, Julie? It's been lovely having you. I am so honored to have you here. It's like I'm talking to someone that I've known for years.
I know.
Yeah, I really appreciate everything that you've done. I appreciate, you know, the what I've known about you. I really appreciate it. You're my kind of woman. I would say women who wear capes, invisible capes. You know, your light is shining bright for the world to see, and I am grateful for that, and I'm honored to have you on this platform. So yes, so we're going to end the live here.
Well,
So
thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so anyone that wants to connect with Julie, I'm going to put all the details down in the comment section, her charities that you can link up to. And if you want to have the Power Hour session with her, I'll also, yeah, somebody said she's been interested in listening to you. I have a question. Go ahead. What's the question?
Typing, probably.
Okay, yeah. So we wait for that question to come through. Anybody else that is interested in the Power Hour session, I'll send a link in there. And then, how do I go about learning to? She said, how do I go about learning to play this?
Okay, I think you can now buy. You could probably do it on YouTube. YouTube will have a how to play the saxophone, and or years ago, you know, you could buy a video and a book. You know, you could have the book and it would explain what the notes were and they'd show you. Then it probably moved to CD, and then it probably moved to downloading.
Yeah.
But just via YouTube,
yes,
you can buy the book and follow it on YouTube, and then we look forward. Is it Baker Street that you want to play? Because that's what's on my show reel, me playing Baker Street, isn't it? But I hope lots of your followers follow me. That would be brilliant.
Yeah, that's okay. That's it. We're doing a call now. Everyone that listens to this, I need you to go to Julie Kent MBE Instagram page, follow her, sign up when her podcast comes through. I need you to sign and subscribe to it. You will not, you can see, even this conversation, you can see what you're going to get. A lot of laugh, a lot of joy, a lot of, you know, a lot of knowledge. You know, she's bright. That's the way to describe her. She's a bright light, and so you will get a lot out of it. She said, somebody said, I'm already following. Fantastic. So yes, that's what we want you to do. Follow her page, follow her, and you will not be disappointed. So I will have to, I don't know whether I should say this, MBE.
No.
Me lady. All right. Okay, so I'm going to end this now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you everybody else for coming on here. Hello to Julie's daughter. Hopefully we'll meet someday. Thank you everyone.
Thank
All right. Bye-bye. Bye.